Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Observation Reactions. Right? That's what you call it? Observation.
Yeah, observation reaction. Yes, sir.
We just got a brand new trailer, not a teaser, but a trailer for Venom 2.
Let there be carnage.
Yes. Exactly. But before we get into that, you may see some visual changes. We're trying out some different platforms just to see what works best and to give you guys the most enjoyable content. So if you like this better, if you like it worse, leave a comment, let us know. But with that being said, do you have anything to say about this trailer, or should we just...
Well, you know, we talked about Venom, Let There Be Carnage a little bit when we did our What We're Watching in 2021 video. This made the list and made the cut of movies that, you know, are very much at the top of our radar. The first Venom was kind of middling, you know. I think that it had some promising parts, but, you know, there were a lot of very reasonable criticisms of it. But that being said, I am looking forward to this one. I do have faith, perhaps irrational, but faith that this one's going to be an improvement on the last one. I like that Andy Serkis is directing it. You know, he's super talented, and obviously, you know, for a movie that involves a lot of motion capture stuff, you know, you could hardly ask for someone more knowledgeable.
To be amazing.
Absolutely.
Writing wise, we don't know, but it's really good.
Yeah, and I also like that they streamlined the writing team for this one compared to the last one, so that's also promising.
Yeah, this is generally better.
Yeah, and we should acknowledge this is actually the second trailer that they've put out. They put the first trailer out back in May, and I thought the first trailer looked quite good. So I'm hoping that this one can build on that momentum a bit. But we'll see. You know, we haven't, neither of us have seen this trailer yet. Of course, we're going to react to it in real time here. But I am cautiously optimistic. I am hopeful, and we will be doing a review on this when it comes out later this year. So let's see what we have in store.
Let's do it.
All I ever wanted in this world is carnage.
Lady, we should be out there snacking on bad guys. I am a predator. I need to be free.
You have got to get control of your aggression. You will get hauled off into Area 51.
Oh, Area 51.
You live in my body. You live by my rules.
I'm sorry, I don't know what came over me. Please let me fix it so I can forget it again. You are a loser.
Eddie Brock, I want to give you my story. People love serial killers. Please, why me? What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. I have tasted blood before, and that is not it. All I ever wanted in this world is carnage.
It's absolutely insane.
I'm not a crazy man. Are you a vengeful one?
Oh, shit!
Oh, where you going?
That is a red one!
You need to come out right now. I will let you eat everybody!
Promise!
I promise!
Oh, yeah!
Eddie, you feel like home to me. Like family.
Oh, wow!
You could just say I'm happy for you.
That was going to be us!
I am happy for you.
No!
I'm so sorry.
Not sorry!
This dude in some serious couples now.
Okay. So, okay.
Well,
What are we thinking? I thought it was a good trailer. I liked it.
Yeah, I thought it was good. Definitely reveals more than the previous one, which is good. I have no idea who the screaming lady is. When I first saw her, I thought, oh, this is gonna introduce like other superpower people, but then when she showed up a second time, I was like, oh, she's the only other superpowered person. So
Yeah, I think the character is Scream or Screech or something like that. But yeah, she also briefly popped up in the first trailer. But yeah, I think this looked really good. I think this looked really good. We got a more full kind of visual of what. Actually, we got a lot more of what Carnage actually looks like and what the transformation looks like than in the first trailer. And I gotta say, it looks appropriately insane. Like it's, I think one of the things that I'm most looking forward to in this one is that, especially when you're doing a Carnage storyline, you really have to play up the kind of the body horror, elements and visuals of that, because I mean, Carnage is one of the most sadistic villains in the Marvel lore. I mean, it's imagine all of the insanity of a serial killer paired with just the murderous potential of a symbiote, and that's pretty much where Carnage comes from. Yeah. And I think we're getting a lot of that in this. We saw a little bit of it with Carnage's transformation. When Woody Harrelson becomes Carnage, when he stuck one of his tendrils down the throat of that one prison guard, that was gross. But these are the things that you have to really dive into to do Carnage properly, especially with kind of like an absolute Carnage thing, which looks like they might be doing, where Carnage essentially, takes over a city and is like mind controlling everybody and turns everybody into symbiotes. There's a lot more horror and horror adjacent potential for that than what we saw in the first one, and I think that they kind of are going to capitalize on that a bit more, and that's something that I'm hopeful about.
Do you know what this one is going to be rated? Is it looking to be PG-13 or?
That is a good question. I think it's PG-13, but let me double check that. In the meantime, yeah.
I would hope that it's rated R, because I think this movie would benefit greatly from really leaning into that gore side.
Yeah.
We see the shot of Carnage shooting his tendril down the prison guard's throat, and that's gnarly, but unless he rips up the spine out of his mouth, or we see blood kind of gushing out, it kind of feels in that oh, this is superhero movie violence, but it doesn't seem real, so it doesn't seem as gnarly. But when you actually see the blood and guts, it becomes that much more impactful.
Yeah, and I'm looking it up. It doesn't seem like it's been rated yet, but the first one was PG-13, so I would imagine this one's probably going to be as well.
Yeah. So it probably won't be as nasty as I think it should be, but at least we'll get some cool visuals out of it.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I mean, at least when it comes to, comic book movies, there is still a decent amount you can do with PG-13. You can take that pretty far and stay within the boundaries of PG-13. So I think that, yes, would it probably be ideal if it were rated R? Probably, just for the sake of going all the way with some of those visuals and some of those moments. But I think there's still a lot you can do with PG-13, and I suspect this is going to be the kind of movie, if it is PG-13, that's going to be kind of at that limit of PG-13. So I'm not too concerned about that yet, but, the star of the show here is undoubtedly Carnage. I have to say this first, right off the bat. I'm very glad that for Cletus Cassidy, they got rid of the the haircut that he had from the post-credit scene of the first Venom film.
The curly red.
Yeah,
type.
Yeah, well, it was the clown thing.
Not flattering at all.
Yeah, the Ronald McDonald situation. Yeah, that I'm glad they ditched that. Nobody liked that, and so they're not doing that. Yeah, I think that this is. I mean, Woody Harrelson is obviously a great actor, and I'm really excited to see what he can do with this because Woody Harrelson, he's typically plays the nice, affable guy, but
share of villainous roles. I don't know.
Oh, to be sure.
I don't know if you saw True Detective, but like that was. I mean, I guess more hero, but he was definitely like pretty dark.
Yeah,
He has the chops.
Oh, to be sure, and I'm excited to see what he can do with just playing such an unbelievably unlikable, sadistic serial killer. Because it's not just that he's a killer, it's not just that he's Carnage, but he's also insane. So you have like that Joker thing going on as well, where he's unpredictable. And I'm really excited to see what he can do with that. Yeah, it's gonna be it's especially putting him against Tom Hardy, who is obviously a great actor, one of the best that we have today. I think that's going to be great. On top of just the interplay with the symbiotes as well, because as we saw, Carnage is a next level symbiote. Like the Venom symbiote is cool and all, but even he's a little intimidated by.
I'm dealing with this.
Yeah, he's a red one. Yeah, I love that line in the trailer. That one's a red one. So I guess that's how the symbiote hierarchies work. Is in the last movie, Riot. I think Riot was the main antagonist symbiote. Was just a gray symbiote. So, but this one, apparently the red ones are the really dangerous ones. Yeah. So, Venom wants nothing to do with that. But one thing we didn't see is and I'm not surprised. This may come up in the movie, but I'm not surprised if they don't want to show it in the trailer. Is in the last movie, you had a very interesting moment where there was a period of time when Venom wasn't with Eddie. Venom was actually a kind of occupying Eddie's girlfriend and then came back to Eddie. So I'm wondering if in this movie we're going to get more moments where perhaps Venom isn't exclusively inside of Eddie Brock. Maybe, he might occupy some other people.
That's a good question. And also, like, I actually never saw the first Venom movie, but from the trailers and from the trailers for Let There Be Carnage, you kind of have that fun, like, buddy struggling roommates situation. Would it help if, like, Venom just kind of picked up some, like, random hobo on the street and, like, took over his body to, like, be a more considerate roommate than, like, being this clumsy monster that's, like, breaking everything all the time?
I mean, that is a good question. But
I don't think the movie's gonna go there, personally.
Yeah, well, at least not in that side of it.
That would actually be a good way to. That could lead to some really cool combat scenes too. If, like, instead of, like, Eddie as Venom, like this giant guy, like, Venom leaves and then, like, takes over a different guy and is, like, hurting him from the inside or, like, causing him to like punch himself or something.
Yeah. It's a very good question, and I think that's entirely possible. We saw a little bit of that in the first movie, but that was mainly because the symbiote was separated from Eddie and was trying to get back to Eddie. Yeah. But if there was a situation, a combat situation, where it was advantageous for the two of them to be separate, that could be really interesting. I do wonder how the symbiote is going to factor into this subplot which seems to be developing, where Eddie's girlfriend is now going out with this other guy. And he's like, I guess they're engaged, and the symbiote's going, that was supposed to be you. I guarantee you we're going to get at least one joke where the symbiote is going to try to eat that guy, and Eddie's going to have to reluctantly stop him.
And, like, Eddie's like, I'm so happy for you, and then he, like, slaps the I guess not husband, but, like, fiance.
Yeah.
Was that Eddie or was that Venom?
Good question. Yeah, and I think that kind of plays into what you were saying, which is, again, we kind of got the beginnings of this in the first movie, but now we're going to get a lot more of this odd couple roommate situation with the two of them. I think that's going to open up a lot of, good opportunities for comedy and kind of fun jokes. So that's something that I'm looking forward to. But as far as Carnage goes, I think Woody Harrelson is going to be great. I think Carnage looks really cool, looks terrifying, is going to be terrifying.
I like how it's all like his tentacles are all spiny.
Yeah. And I mean,
like a red Venom, it actually seems different.
Yeah, very different design. And I mean, that scene where Cletus bites Eddie, and he's like, saying that I've tasted human blood, and that's not human. That was kind of freaky. But again, he's insane. He's literally like this crazy serial killer.
Yeah, I actually want to go back to Woody Harrelson for a bit, and the character he's playing. Do you think this is going to be more of a Joker situation or more of a Hannibal Lecter situation? Or are they going to try to combine the two, and will that be successful at all?
Good question. I think it's going to be some combination of the two. I think that, from what we've seen so far, it definitely leans in the Hannibal Lecter direction, just in terms of the visual. You've got this serial killer in a cell who's, kind of mentally tormenting his interviewer, although unlike Hannibal Lecter, who ends up, he's kind of helpful and he helps the police until, he goes back to his old ways. Cletus is definitely not helpful. But it is definitely like Hannibal Lecter in that sense. But I think also there's going to be...
Hannibal Lecter isn't like crazy joking, all this stuff. He's just like... He's almost
that's the thing.
More of like a silent menace.
Well, that's the thing, is that he's very high functioning. He can turn it on and turn it off. So I think that the setup is very Lecter-esque, but in terms of the demeanor, it's very much Joker. In that he's insane. He doesn't really have an ideology other than killing people and taking over. And I think that it could almost be, in a certain sense, similar to not Heath Ledger's Joker, but more so Joaquin Phoenix's Joker from Joker from 2019, because in that movie, Joker inadvertently becomes the focus of this movement, and I think we might see a similar thing happen here, but not in the sense that people are voluntarily joining Carnage, but that Carnage is taking over people.
Yeah,
and
the movement of other symbiotes.
Exactly. So I think it could be a little bit of a Joaquin Phoenix Joker in that way. But yeah, I think it's going to be some kind of fusion of the two, and you're going to see elements from both. Yeah. I
believe in Woody Harrelson to pull it off. I know he's a great actor. I just hope like his writing is consistent, and that they're not like swinging the pendulum between Hannibal Lecter Joker.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I think that's really going to be the key to the whole thing. But it's looking good. It is looking good. I can already say that I have higher hopes for this than I ever had going into the original Venom. I think that they've got a better team behind it this time. As you said, the key is in the writing. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you can't do anything without that. But it's looking good. I have a lot of confidence in it. I think this definitely did a good job of taking what the first trailer did well and then expanding on that, making me more excited. Just kind of as a counterpoint, because I thought about this after we did our last trailer review, which was our Shang-Chi trailer reaction. And I said this at the time, and it's kind of become more so since, that for Shang-Chi, the teaser was awesome. I loved that teaser. It did a great job. The trailer didn't really give me anything new to latch onto.
Yeah.
That made me more excited. Like, I started out really excited, and I'm still really excited, but that's in spite of the trailer and not because of it. And so it goes to show you that for some of these big movies, more trailers are not exactly better. You have to, when you're going to do this multiple trailer release strategy, you've really got to take what you've already put out and expand on it. Otherwise, it just feels like, well, now you're just showing me more of a movie that I was already resolved to see.
Yeah. That's the key to that is like, limiting the information. So if you put out a teaser, have it really not say anything about the plot and have it ask a shit ton of questions. And then the trailer answers maybe one or two of those questions, but also.
Absolutely.
I remember the very first Venom teaser. I don't even know if you could call it a teaser. I guess it was more of an announcement, but it was literally just the silver V.
Yes.
It's like everyone was going wild. It's like, oh my god, are we getting a Venom movie? This is crazy, and like it generated so much hype because there were so many questions behind just this little letter V.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you get a teaser and a trailer that's all the scenes in the teaser plus like a couple more, not as great. So I actually like this one because we still don't have context for a lot of these, but we get to see more scenes, more like visual elements, some shots from different fight scenes that are like, ooh, how do these happen? Like there's this one shot of Carnage like crawling, almost flying through this hallway with his like spines out. Like that was really cool. That was a great visual. It was on for like maybe 2 seconds.
Yeah. Even
like,
that.
I'm intrigued. So.
Oh, totally. Yeah, so this trailer definitely did its job, did a very good job, I think, of building on the hype. Looking forward to this one. Of course, we have to ask the question, because it's very much in the public discourse right now. We're recording this on August 2nd. Last week, there was a lot of hubbub and a lot of, talk happening on MCU Twitter and other parts of social media. People were speculating maybe on August 1st we'll get a trailer release for, No Way Home, because we haven't seen anything at all from that yet. Of course, that didn't come to pass.
Kevin Feige, please give me the trailer. We've all been. We're all.
Yeah, the internet has been clamoring for months to get this thing, and but this came out close enough to that August 1st target date, just one day later, that it does at least make me wonder, or add to my speculation, will there be more connections between Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and the MCU version of Spider-Man than perhaps we yet know? Because we know that Kevin Feige, he was a creative consultant on Venom, Let There Be Carnage. He is in close contact with that team. And we know that Sony has every incentive and desire to take their separate Spider-Man properties and move them as close to the MCU as possible without putting them in the MCU, to the point where we even saw the Vulture pop up in that trailer from Mobius way back when, in the before times of the pandemic. So
I was about to bring that up. What is the situation with Morbius?
I think it got pushed back into 2022. I think they're dropping that in like January 2022 or February, somewhere early.
Still like in production. They're going to release that at some point.
Oh yeah. I think they already filmed it, and they were going to release it last year in 2020, but then the pandemic hit, so everything got shuffled around and pushed back. But I think it's telling that they are, because I think it was pretty much done, because we had a trailer for that come out in January of 2020, so before the pandemic, so it was close to being finished. And I think it's telling that they could have put it out already. They could have been out by now in 2021, but they're still saving it for early 2022. And it's not always true, but it's typically regarded that when you take a bigger budget movie and you drop it in January, that's kind of like a dumping ground for stuff that you're like, like we still got to put it out, but we don't trust it to be in some sort of major release slot or holiday thing.
Yeah, because I guess if you were gonna do that around that time frame, you would do Christmas. I guess it's possible to do like a New Year's release, but not. I mean, why would you not just do Christmas? So.
Yeah, I mean, you look at all the real estate that we had back in April, May, June, July. I mean, if they wanted it out, they could have put it out by now, but they still pushed it back into next year when it was pretty much finished. That's kind of telling to me that they don't have a ton of confidence in Morbius.
You're catching yourself wanting to say Mobius.
Yeah, no, I don't want to cross the streams here.
We're not.
Yeah, we did that, but Morbius, and honestly, I didn't think it looked very good when that trailer came out. I'm not excited for Morbius.
I don't know the character at all.
He's just like a vampire, pretty much.
He's a vampire. Because MCU is going to have like a Blade movie, they're gonna do a Blade reboot. I can see it like coinciding with that, but like the Spider-Man villain. And like I think the reason they are holding it off is because I feel like they want it to come out after Carnage. I don't know if Carnage was also pushed back or if it had been planned to be released around this time, but
well, that's the thing, is that originally Carnage was supposed to come out after Morbius. So
because I feel like Morbius would have more of a connection to the MCU just because you have that like. It's New York centric. You have that connection to the Vulture.
No. It's set in London. It's set in England.
Right. Then why is the Vulture there?
I don't know. I guess he got out of prison and he's just in London now.
All right. So I
don't know.
Leave that. Morbius can just sit on the sidelines and
well I bring it up to mention that's one example of Sony putting deliberately
the MCU
deliberately putting that element in, and so definitely as the more successful of the two, they're going to want to move Venom, and its related characters adjacent to the MCU as well. And I still believe there's every chance that we might see some sort of tie-in, maybe at the end of the movie or in a post-credit scene or what have you. But I mean, I can't imagine. It's such prime real estate. I can't imagine that Sony wouldn't put in something Spider-Man related at the end of Venom, one of their movies, 2 months before the release of the Spider-Man movie itself. Yeah. It's like a free ad at the end of the movie. So
I have no idea.
I mean, and I'm not saying that it's going to be Spider-Man himself per se, but I think I would not be surprised at all if there was some connective tissue at the end of this movie that is going to kind of gin up a lot of theory crafting and a lot of interest in the connections between Venom and Spider-Man, because it's coming out 2 months before No Way Home, so it's just too close to not have any connection. I think.
I don't know, because I feel like that's just more like Twitter conspiracy. Because people were also saying, "Oh, the trailer is going to come out August 1st," or "Oh, the trailer is going to come out on Tom Holland's birthday." Like, no, it didn't. But it's like people are speculating all these things. I feel like I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm tempted to say that Marvel is going to want to hold on to MCU Spider-Man for as long as possible, especially because it helps them, and also Sony gets a ton of the profits from those movies. So I feel like it would also be in Sony's interest to keep Tom Holland Spider-Man in the MCU rather than, bring him over to the Sonyverse where he's probably not going to do as well.
Well, that's the thing, is that I think Sony wants Tom Holland and his Spider-Man to exist in both, in some form or another. And here's where they connect, because it's not just Twitter. I mean, it makes good business sense from Sony's perspective as well to, have there, be some connection between one big movie they're putting out in October, another one that they're putting out in December. But where the Twitter element of it comes in, and the reason I bring it up is to say that there was a lot of the speculation about will the Spider-Man trailer come out on August 1st. On August 2nd, we don't get a No Way Home trailer, but we do get a Venom trailer. That leads me to believe maybe there is some reason, because we're in August now, this movie's coming out in December. We're well within now the typical window where you could expect to see at least a teaser or a poster or something. I have to believe.
I think it's that limit of information. I think they're just trying to tell us nothing so the hype keeps building for Spider-Man.
I don't just think it's that. I think the reason why we're getting Venom now instead of No Way Home is because there is some storytelling reason why they just can't show us anything about Spider-Man right now. Think back to the Far From Home situation 2 years ago, where you had a teaser, which, of course, there was a spoiler in that teaser, and that Spider-Man was alive and going on the summer vacation in Europe. So obviously we knew that he had to come back in events post-Endgame. But when the trailer came out, they couldn't put that out until after Endgame released. Why? Because you had that big mural of Iron Man, and of course they make references in that trailer to how Iron Man died in the events of Endgame. So that trailer, they could not have put that out. Marvel wouldn't have let them put that out, and Disney would have let them put that out before Endgame.
The No Way Home trailer might have some kind of spoiler or connection to Carnage. So wait until after.
I think it's contingent on something we haven't seen yet. Carnage would be the most likely culprit, but I think it's contingent on something that we haven't seen yet. And that's why they haven't shown us anything yet. Because if not for that, I am sure Sony would love nothing more than to start advertising this movie to high heaven, because this is going to be their biggest release of the year. So there must be some reason why they are just sitting on it, and I suspect that's a result of the partnership with Marvel, and Marvel saying, we've got XYZ coming up for that's Spider-Man related, and a trailer or anything like that simply cannot come out before this is out. So would Let There Be Carnage be the most likely culprit? Yes, but what else do we have coming down the pipeline? We have What If, which, I mean, it's not impossible.
That's going to be a bunch of non-canon shorts, I feel like.
Well, yeah, it's unlikely because it's this animated, spin-off thing. But we know that that's going to be, going into all sorts of various multiverse scenarios, and with Dr. Octopus and Electro coming in from different Spider-Man universes, it's not impossible, but unlikely. And we also have Shang-Chi coming out in September, which, I mean, admittedly, I mean, is Shang-Chi going to be super relevant to Spider-Man? You wouldn't think so, but maybe there's some element of it that is going to be important to Spider-Man, and that's what they're waiting for. Or most likely something in Venom that's going to be relevant. But that's my theory. It has to be tied to something we just haven't seen yet, and they're waiting for that to come out so they can finally start ramping up their marketing push for No Way Home. Because I'm sure it's not for lack of Sony wanting to. I'm sure it's not that. I think it's because of the stipulations of their cooperation with Marvel.
Yeah, it's either that or just because Marvel doesn't want to for whatever reason.
Yeah, but I'm
just wondering if it is connected to Carnage, what do you think that connection would be? Because, the movie's set in San Francisco, not New York, where Spider-Man is. And we have yet to see any other MCU crossovers other than Vulture in Morbius, which is coming out after Carnage. So
yeah, well, we talked a little bit about this in our, what we're watching in 2021 video, and my theory is still the same. I think the connective tissue most likely is going to be J. Jonah Jameson, because J. Jonah Jameson's son, I think his name is James Jameson or something, I forget what his name is, but he was the astronaut that got blown up in that rocket explosion at the beginning of Venom, and so, and that was something that was deliberately referenced. So if I had to guess, it's going to be something. It's the connective piece is going to be J.K. Simmons, J. Jonah Jameson. But it could be anything. It could be another.
This is the key to the multiverse.
I mean, honestly,
Are being more powerful than the Scarlet Witch.
It's not as crazy as you might think, because of course this J. Jonah Jameson is the same one from the Raimi films, so he was in those. He came back in Far From Home. Now he's going to be a more permanent fixture in the MCU.
He's playing the same character, but it's not the same version. Because
not the same version.
Jameson is doing the online show Daily Bugle versus like running a newspaper.
It's true. It's not the same version, but that's still evidence of, that's still evidence of a multiverse of sorts, because they have confirmed that this is J. Jonah Jameson, the same one that we remember from those earlier films, but now it's the MCU version. Yeah. So, that is still evidence of a multiverse. So it's not as crazy as it might sound that J. Jonah Jameson might be one of the keys to the multiverse, and maybe the earliest key that we've gotten. So yeah, don't discount it. But it could be him. It could be another Spider-Man villain. It could be someone else that we saw from Homecoming. Maybe the Tinkerer. I don't know. Somebody who was in that little gang. Could be Mysterio comes back. I don't know. I mean,
the Shocker reappears in What If? I think.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, something like that.
I remember seeing the Shocker return recently, but I'm not sure if that was like a trailer for something or if that was in a dream. So
yeah, or here's something. I mean, we could even go. We could even go all the way with it and say that one of the villains that we know is going to pop up in. No Way Home, Electro from the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, or Dr. Octopus from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. Maybe one of them shows up in a post-credit scene, and they're already in this world. Oh, yeah. And that's how, and then they're going to go into the events of No Way Home from San Francisco, presumably, or something like that. They just show up, and then boom, that movie's out. Trailer.
That begs the question, though, how does that give enough time for the No Way Home trailer? Because, you can't just release it the same day or the day after Carnage comes out, because, you'd probably need at least a week to get a lot of people to have seen it. But then that leaves you, 6-7 weeks before the release of the movie to drop its trailer? That seems like super, super compressed.
Well, yeah, it's closer to, I think.
I'm sure it's been done before, because you said Carnage comes out 2 months before.
Yeah, well, Venom and There Be Carnage comes out towards the end of September, and then No Way Home comes out toward the end of December. So really, it's more like more like 3 months almost, so, just now.
Yeah. So if you had 2.5 months, do you think that's enough time to see a trailer? And it probably is.
I think so. For a movie the size of Spider-Man, I think it is, because you have so many. I mean, especially it's Spider-Man. It's coming out around the holidays. Like, the movie's going to do gangbusters. Yeah. The name recognition is so high that you don't need to really explain to a ton of new people what it is to get them into the theater. They're just going to show up.
Spider-Man is like the most recognized superhero in the world, so
exactly. So
fine.
Yeah, so I think
that release it tomorrow unannounced, and I'm sure it would blow up in a heartbeat.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I mean, all of this could be bullshit, and it could just come out on a random day, and this will all be for nothing. But
it's been on Disney Plus this entire time. Sony but we did it anyways.
But yeah, I think that's still plenty of time, a 3-month turnaround or a 2.5-month turnaround, because you don't need to convince a ton of new people to come see it. You've already got the vast majority of people. You only need to really advertise for the most casual of moviegoers who really don't know what's coming out, just to remind them what the date is. But for most people, you wouldn't even have to put out a trailer and they would show up because it's Spider-Man. Yeah. But I think that that does make a lot of sense. And also, again, Far From Home is kind of a template because, yes, we had a teaser pre-Endgame, but really the trailer and everything else, the full advertising push didn't really start until after Endgame. And the movie came out 2 months later. So, we do have a template for it. And I think that, especially if word got out that there was something in the post-credit scene of Let There Be Carnage that you just have to see because it's going to relate directly to No Way Home, and there wasn't a trailer yet, but you had word of mouth saying that you've got to see this post-credit scene, that would then also drive ticket sales to go see Venom. It makes good business sense for Sony, and it's not a smaller turnaround than what they've already done, more or less. So
I'm on board with this theory now. You've thoroughly convinced me.
That's my
to that financial incentive.
That's my conspiracy theory for where that's my conspiracy theory for the connection between Let There Be Carnage and No Way Home, because it's definitely getting conspicuous that we haven't gotten, forget even a trailer, just a poster or anything for that movie yet. But
I did get the little Tom Holland and friends teaser where they walk past the whiteboard.
Yeah,
it's the title reveal, basically.
Yeah, it's a title reveal. But so
really haven't gotten anything more than that.
Yeah, and the title reveal is cool, but it's like, that didn't really shine a light on a ton of new insights. But that's my little conspiracy for, I think, why we haven't seen it yet. I think that Venom Let There Be Carnage might be the key, and you know what? More power to them, because it's just one more reason to see this movie, and I think it genuinely is going to be better than the original one. So, here's hoping. Yeah. All right, but overall, I gotta say, good trailer, well done, Sony. You've got my ticket. So
you've done it again. You're.
You've managed to produce a competent trailer again, but now let's see the movie.
Bare minimum of what was expected of you. Congrats.
There you go. So now we will just have to wait and see. A movie comes out in a month and a half. So
yeah, let's hope it does well.
Absolutely. Let's hope it's good, because we're gonna end up seeing it anyway. So But yes, well, thank you all so much for joining us for this trailer reaction. Anything else you want to say, Reid? Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I think we covered everything. Trailer, great visuals. Woody Harrelson, great. Great. Sony, good.
Good trailers.
Great trailer, great. So I'm excited to see how it does.
We will see. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we will speak to you next time there's a trailer worth talking about.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Goodbye.